Welcome to Man in America, a voice of reason in a world gone mad. I'm your host, Seth Holehouse. One thing that I'm trying to always understand deeper is what's happening behind the scenes at the global financial level. Because if you look at these different warring countries, you look at the Ukraine, what's happening with Ukraine, or Israel and Iran, or America and China. There's the documentary that was recently going around called All Wars Are Bankers' Wars, or maybe it was a podcaster or something going around talking about all wars are bankers' wars. And it's actually very true. Like if you look at any wars and you trace them back, you can see that they're being financed by the banks, oftentimes on both sides. They're caused by the banks. The wars are started for different reasons, resetting financial systems, collapsing countries to come in and use debt slavery. There's so much happening. And so right now, when we look at these tariff wars, we look at what Trump is doing with China, how he put all these massive tariffs off and very quickly pulled them back off the EU. There's been a lot of discussion of what's going on, who's the real enemy, and what is the bigger picture. So my guest today, Tom Luongo, who always has a very unique perspective and a very fiery way of delivering his perspective, has a lot of evidence and actually a lot of just knowledge that shows him that what's actually going on right now is that Trump is waging a war against the European banking system, right? The Bank of England, the City of London, the banking cabal, as it's commonly referred to. And so what Tom's going to do in this episode is just lay out all the information that shows that Trump is actually going up against this European banking system. And while everyone's focused on the trade wars with China and what's happening with Xi Jinping, what Tom is saying is that the real battle is happening between the American banking system and the European banking system. So this will be an interesting show. He gets detailed and gets really into a lot of financial language. I do my best to pull things up and make sure I'm following. So I'll give you that warning ahead of time that it is a very financial discussion, but I like that because I'm learning so much. Also give you another warning, as Tom admits in the interview, he is an angry old man. So he's actually a lot of fun, but he does swear quite a bit. So if you've got kids that watch or listen to you, I think he drops the F-bomb a few times and he has some choice language. So that's my fair warning to you that if you've got kids, earmuff them, or, just maybe this is the episode they sit out on. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this interview with Tom. It's fun, it's exciting, and we end the discussion with a really, really interesting talk about goats. So please enjoy the interview. If you suffer from daily pain, please listen closely. Folks, the tides are turning. It's no secret that Big Pharma isn't interested in your relief. They want you hooked on pain pills forever, profiting billions in the process. Their motives have been unmasked, and a natural pain solution has taken hold throughout the United States. That solution is named Canolidine, which may be your ticket to a life without pain. Chances are you've already heard someone talking about Canolidine, as it has changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans. Over 2 million bottles were shipped last year alone. So why is it so popular? This drug-free innovation has been studied for 14 years, and it gives you the pain pill level of relief without side effects, grogginess, or risk of addiction. There's no synthetic pills, no injections, and no expensive doctor visits. In fact, it's about 1/10 the cost of traditional pain management. Scientists are calling Canolidine nature's morphine, and it's the only substance ever proven to activate your body's natural pain molecules, the very same ones upon which pain meds are designed. This means you could be 7 short days away from a life without pain. But here's the deal. Until midnight, you can try it risk-free for 90 days for just $1 daily. No subscriptions, no gimmicks, just honest and powerful relief. Remember, authentic Canolidine is only produced by one company in the world, GDR Labs, and every bottle is small batch manufactured in Atlanta, Georgia. Thousands have vocalized their success with Canolidine. You could be next, but hurry. Due to demand, this special pricing expires at midnight tonight. So try Canolidine for less than $1 per day. Go to www.trycono.com/MIA. That's TRYCONO.com/MIA, or just click the link below the video. Break free from Big Pharma. You've got nothing to lose but your pain. Mr. Tom Luongo, It is great to have you back on. It's a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you. A lot has happened.
Yeah, you could say. I know that a lot of people are quoting this recently, and I'm loath to ever quote Lenin, but yes, there are some weeks when years happen, and yeah, that was last week, and so far this week it's been another week, but in this kind of time frame, I guess some weeks decades happen, then so I think we're at the yearly pace right now. Things are starting to slow back down again. So
yeah, and so I always enjoy speaking with you because, I'll let you give yourself a quick background just to help, for the people that are watching that,
Sure.
You're a new face to them. But I find that you're the one person I talk to about the merger of especially geopolitics and finance and global economics that you oftentimes present a wildly different view than what I might have come to. But then after I listen to you, it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. And so I always appreciate because you're so, you really sing to your own tune, which I appreciate. So anyway, before we dive in, give people just a short, quick background on you, and then we'll kind of dive into understanding what's happened globally with finance lately.
Sure. So, in a former life, I was a chemist and a very angry young man. Now I'm a very angry old man. I've been doing this kind of intersection of geopolitics and finance since I started working for Newsmax back in 2013. I started editing their newsletter for them back then. That gig lasted for about 4 years. It ended. I moved on. I started Gold Goats and Guns, which is in fact just an extension of what I was doing then at Newsmax. I'm now back with Newsmax and still do Gold Goats and Guns. I do both of them. And now I edit Ultimate Wealth Report for them. And it was lovely. I was in New York last week for their ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange after the IPO, which was very cool. And it was nice to see the company have that kind of success after watching the ups and downs of the last 12 years, especially with the ups and downs of the Trump administration and the interregnum, as we were put it, called the Biden junta. But yeah, I mean, what am I? I'm just a guy who lives in North Florida, does this thing, and I come at this from mostly free market and one would call libertarian perspective, but unfortunately I've had to leave the modern libertarians behind because they don't care about anything other than being right, and they don't care about actually winning. So I have to move on, and I'm not sure that we call ourselves post-libertarian or something else, or if the libertarians have just purity spiraled into irrelevancy, kind of like they're. I'll be honest with you, they almost feel like I'm not a big fan of James Lindsay either and his whole woke right thing. But I mean, if there was a group that would consider themselves, who I would consider now having purity spiral like the woke have, it would be those in that absolutist camp about free markets and private property and everything else. So like, they're not wrong philosophically. It's just that we live in this world where that's not going to, we're not getting there anytime soon, folks. So why should we concern ourselves with being philosophically correct about everything and then trying to just, argue about how many Rothbards can dance on the head of a pin, which is what they're still doing after 35 years. And I have no interest. Murray warned you about that stuff before he died. Remember, he voted for Pat Buchanan. Okay. So if you want to know the short and the sweet, I'm an iconoclast in every way and I don't pull punches and I don't care. I don't care. I don't have to because my patrons pay me not to care. They pay me to give them the straight dope as I see it, and I'm so very thoroughly happy. And I'm loath to use the word blessed, but happy to provide for them at that level on a daily basis. And in any podcast that I do, well, you're going to get the same thing that I give them. So
there we go. And that's what I like about you is that you've always got your cigar. And I know you're always being honest. Angry people I find are typically very honest because there's just no filter, and it's just, which I appreciate.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, someone asked me the other day, it was like, are you? I'm nothing more than a guy with a big chip on his shoulder and a grudge against globalists because they've destroyed the world and they've destroyed so many people's lives, and at the end of the day, these globalists are nothing but vampiric pedophiles and communists, and there's an intersection between those two. There's a great overlap between vampiric pedophiles and communists in the Venn diagram on that, and everything else is just, and everything else you hear about them is just marketing. It's like really the best way to put it. It's just marketing. They're just trying to market themselves like everybody else. Oh no, really? Our brand of communism is better than the ones that we put in place in other places around the world and killed hundreds of millions of people. Like, really? Tell me more.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm in a weird mood this afternoon, so
that's good. I'm looking
not sure where we're going to wind up.
Fun. Well, I mean, so there's so much going on, but looking at the intersection of geopolitics and economics, which are now become fused together, especially with these tariff wars and trade wars. You've got Trump, really putting the screws onto China with the tariffs. You have all these videos going viral from China exposing how cheap these goods are, these luxury goods are being produced, and which I think is part of the Chinese, their version of propaganda to make sure that they're undermining the West, which it's true. A lot of propaganda is true, but it's like, okay, what's behind it? So how do you make sense of all this? Because you've also got Europe, which seems like to be just a continuing mess. So how do you make sense of what's going on right now? Right?
They're the real target. Something just got lodged in my throat, and I hope it's not a piece of my cigar. Sorry about that. No, actually, the real target is Europe. And I found these Chinese propaganda videos about. I saw one this morning of this black guy in Houston, like with his Gucci flip flops that he paid $400 for him. Like anybody who pays $400 for a pair of flip flops deserves nothing but opprobrium. I don't care how much money you have. Like I would never buy. I have. Yeah, no, dude, I'm sorry. I could be worth $400 million tomorrow, and I would still shop at Amazon. Like, you know what I mean? And Walmart, because, that's where I shop. So, but what I found funny about that is like, there's these $400 Gucci flip flops that, that they cost 75 cents to make, and some amount of time to design, apparently. And Europe's the target of that, not the United States, because Gucci is not an American brand.
Louis Vuitton is not American. A lot of these are just LVMH brands.
Yeah, these are all those Louis Vuitton and all that stuff. So it's all Europe. That's actually the target of those videos, which I find really funny because, we're not going to buy them anymore. We're going to go and we're going to buy them. See, and I find the funny part about that is like, yeah, you can go buy the same version of them over at Walmart for $12. And I'm like, because they were made in China for 75 cents. Well, we can make them here in the United States for $1.25, and we can sell them for $16. And those same idiots, and we just slap a Moochie label on them. And then, look, it's the same thing, right? It's funny being an ex-New Yorker. And I've seen this my entire life because my dad was at NYPD, and I distinctly remember a time when my brother came back from the city one time, having bought a Bulova watch off a street vendor in New York, and of course he got scammed because he missed the extra I. So it was actually Bolivia. It wasn't a Bulova at all. It was something, and that's that kind of stuff has been going on. Those kind of cheap knockoffs of luxury brands that's just New York's, that's just, New York street vendor stuff that's been, and three-card money stuff that's been going on in time immemorial. And so that's where we are today. And I find it really funny that, the Chinese blow the lid on that. And okay, well, then you're not going to have that business, in the future either, because no one's going to buy any of it. So the Chinese aren't going to be making those anymore and exporting them back, back to the Europeans. The Europeans aren't going to be able to charge their massive markups. And, the whole thing is just the whole idea of these high value added economies is all nonsense. And this is the funny part about it is like at the end of the day, we're going to see a massive contraction all the way across the board. Not just I've been saying for years that with the Federal Reserve raising interest rates to where they are, that we're getting a contraction of credit across the board, that the whole Eurodollar system is now starving for oxygen. And it's true. And so every time we attempt to finally get out from underneath the old Eurodollar LIBOR European bank controlled system of pricing our currency for us, thank you very much. We would rather do that ourselves. Every time that happens, there's a major run on our bond markets. There's always a major run on our bond, repo, and currency markets. When we saw that last week, and nominally, from what I was able to piece together, and I might not have the whole story, but what I saw was a whole lot of dumping of U.S. Treasuries, long end of the yield curve into the market. Probably some of which was converted from 30s and 10s into 1s and 2s, 1 years and 2 years. But a lot of it was just converted back into German bonds and, and French bonds and whatnot. But in the process, because those markets are so much smaller than the amount of money that they dumped onto the market, you can't hide those sizes of those transactions in the largest market in the world. If they didn't dump a lot, the treasury market would have just absorbed it and would have been over and done with. They had to dump a lot onto the market. And when you do that and you sell treasuries, you buy dollars, you sell dollars, you buy euros or British pounds or Canadian dollars. But then where do you put the money from there? You don't just sit in Canadian dollars. You then have to bleed that off. Otherwise, the Canadian dollar would go through the roof, right? Or the euro would go through the roof. Well, they don't want it to go through the roof, but they can only have it rise, somewhat. And you saw the euro rise from $1.09 to $1.13. You saw the Canadian dollar rise a few pennies. You saw the British pound rise from about $1.27 now to $1. It's trading about $1.33 today. They're not done selling. They're still doing this, but they're now selling in numbers that can't move the underlying credit markets in order to create any more panic. And they dumped so much onto the market that they blew up a lot of trades. And by doing that, they tried to force liquidations and margin calls and the seizure of the plumbing of the financial markets.
Gold has surged 46% in less than a year, doubling the gains of the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. But this isn't just another rally. Global reserves are shifting, exposing cracks in the monetary system. Investors are losing confidence in paper gold and demanding physical metal, creating a massive gap between gold owed and gold available. But this isn't about how institutions broke another system. It's about how you can profit from it. Right now, Noble Gold Investments has a limited supply of investment-grade gold bars and coins available. As banks scramble to fulfill their obligations, pushing gold prices higher, you can profit. Smart investors are already moving into physical gold. Noble Gold Investments makes it easy for you to do the same. And right now, when you make a qualified investment, Noble Gold will add a free 10th ounce gold coin to your order. Don't wait until it's too late. Visit goldwithseth.com or call 626-654-1906 now and turn their panic into your profit. Again, that's goldwithseth.com or 626-654-1906. You'll find that information in the description for the show as well.
Turns out, as much as they tried to seize the markets up, it didn't actually happen. The last time we saw something like this was during COVID. And the time before that would be the repo crisis of September 2019. And I think before that would be the interest rate rise in January of 2019, because Powell raised interest rates in December 2018. And then by the Fed meeting in 2019, the ECB things started to seize up. The ECB had to cut, the Powell had to cut, and then 9 months later we got the repo crisis. Really, and it showed up in SOFR, and then the whole seizure of the market during the excuse that was COVID. So the question now everybody has to ask themselves, and I think it's a fair one to ask, if things rhyme, right, was last week equivalent to the repo crisis of September 2019, and are we now on a countdown clock for the 6 months when they're going to blow it up again for real? Because now the markets are jittery and people are trying to exit trades and trying to figure out how to reposition themselves. And so the markets are going to be, worried. But the interesting part about that potential analysis is the following. In September 2019, it required the Fed to come in and reopen its standing repo facility and give the banks access to hundreds of billions, if not, in the short term, trillions of dollars worth of temporary liquidity, which, was bled off over time. And that's what the Fed's supposed to do. It's not QE, like Zero Hedge wants to blame everything, call everything QE, because Zero Hedge has advertising to sell, and that's cute and all, but it's not QE. Let's get the hell over ourselves. It's just what the Fed's supposed to do, which is to provide access to temporary liquidity, because that's what the Fed is ultimately, that's its job. It's its primary job. It's always been its primary job. Whether you agree with that, it should be in the market doing that job, that's a different discussion for a different day. But this is the Fed. It exists, and this is its job. So that happened. And generally in times like this, I remember saying back then, well, similar thing happened during the seizure of the markets, the repo crisis in September 2007, which led to the March 2008 vaporization of Bear Stearns, which then led to the September 2008 vaporization of Lehman Brothers, which then took down, everybody else, right? So now but here's the thing. In every one of those previous scenarios, there was a need for massive intervention by the Federal Reserve. And this time there wasn't. Nothing happened. All that happened was Powell came out and said, or one of the couple of Fed governors came out and said, we stand by ready to give the market whatever liquidity it needs. We didn't actually panic or anything else along those lines. And what did Donald Trump do? Donald Trump turns around and goes, oh, okay, great. We now know who's attacking our markets. I'll put a 90-day hold on the tariffs. 4,000 point rally in the Dow. Treasury yields go down by 20 basis points. Dogs and cats no longer are living together again. It's all good. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man stays over the horizon and doesn't come in to level New York City, right? But now we know who's big mad. We know what they're willing to do to stop dead cold any amount of the U.S. changing the rules of the game.
So
now the interesting thing about
also make sure that I'm caught up with you real quick is that in response, so obviously Trump slapped on tariffs. It's almost like he was on like a tariff shopping spree, just tariff all over the place. And so you're saying that in response to that, all these countries, sovereign banks, central banks, perhaps some of them.
This is specifically Europe and the City of London.
Okay, so they started dumping
Let
US
us not
treasuries.
be confused about the State Bank of Vietnam has no ability to make the Fed do anything.
Okay. So City of London
the
finance
Bank of
starts
Thailand
dumping.
has no ability to make the Fed do anything, but the ECB, the Bank of England, and the Bank of Canada do, because they control between them something like $3.4 trillion worth of U.S. Treasuries.
I see. So
they make China's holdings look like, Saudi Arabia's.
I see.
The Saudis only control like $127 billion. But when you factor in the Bank of England, all of its subsidiaries, Ireland, which is now holds over $300 billion. Canada holds over $300 billion. The Caymans holds over $400 billion. Bermuda, the Bahamas, the British Virgin Islands, blah, 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 blah. When you factor all that in, hell, under normal circumstances, I would even put Hong Kong and Singapore on that list as well. But I don't. And the way I break out the holdings, when I look at the Treasury International Capital Report, I break it out. I give Singapore and Hong Kong a miss. I just think I just lump them in with the rest of Asia, because for the most part they haven't been doing anything. But Europe has been gorging on U.S. Treasuries since Powell started tightening in order to keep the euro from collapsing. The euro's weakened, but in order to keep it from collapsing and to keep European bond yields from rising too far too fast, which would then fuel the destruction of the euro, they've been buying a ton of U.S. Treasuries. By the way, that number is, as of January, which is the last CSE report, that number was over $1.1 trillion from September of 2021 to January of 2025. That's a lot of Treasuries. And it's all 10s and 30s, 7s, 10s, 20s, 30s. It's all long dated U.S. Treasuries. Okay.
I see. So Trump puts all these tariffs on while everyone's focused on China and the kind of sparring between Xi and Trump. What it did is that on day one of those treasuries all hitting, as you mentioned, It's like you stick your head out from
The
behind
real
the wall and you see who's shooting at you, right? And
you actually look and see who's shooting, right? It's not the Chinese, because if we saw it, because if the Chinese were selling en masse, aside from the fact the Chinese have a whole lot of dollars, they could just put them on the market anyway. Same thing with the Japanese; they actually have dollars. It was, you see it in the currency crosses, because again, no one sovereign debt market is bigger than the U.S. market, right? Otherwise, the U.S. would not be the world's. What's the definition of the global reserve currency? The fact that 60% of global central bank reserves are held in U.S. treasuries. That number used to be 75. Now it's 60. It's on its way to 55. It's on its way to 50 and 45, and it's going to go away over the course of time. It's what we want, right? It's been flirting with this 60 number for a couple of years now. So that market dwarfs the German bond market. The Germans have not issued $37 trillion worth of, you know what I mean? Like, they haven't. Neither have the Chinese, neither have the Russians, neither have anybody else. Like, no one has that level of sovereign debt out there in the world. So they all pale in comparison. So if there's massive selling in the U.S. Treasury market, then there's no way to hide what you did by dumping it into other assets that you control. It's going to show up in the currencies. And it's exactly what we saw. We saw a massive rise in the euro over 24 hours, like a 4-cent move in the euro, a 3-cent move in the British pound. Same thing with the Canadian dollar. They were all dumping into the market. And that was their signal that we will blow up your credit markets, and we will blow up all the interest rate derivatives and all the plumbing system of the money markets. We will blow those up in order to get you to back off on the tariffs. Now, the funny part about it is that Trump didn't really back off on the tariffs for them. Canada didn't have really even got a tariff, because the only thing that Trump tariffed were the things that Canada was importing that violated the USMCA, which is very little of our trade with Canada. Our beef with Canada is that it's a narco state that works for China, bringing fentanyl into the United States, and the globalists of the Laurentian elites in Ottawa refuse to help us with this, and their banks are all dirty up to the freaking gills with this stuff, because there's no way that size trade cannot go without Toronto Dominion and Bank of Montreal and CIBC and all the rest of them turning a blind eye to it and helping it happen. Otherwise, like, there would be cartels on the Minnesota border with pallets of cash like we see in Mexico. We don't see that, as my friend Alex Craner likes to pointed out to me the other day. So it's got to be going through the Canadian banks. So they're dirty, and they need to be taken out, or they need to be dealt with. And that's why Canada's been in Trump's sights on this. And I have this from directly from people within the administration, that the reason that we're angry with Canada is over the fentanyl trade coming out of China. Stop it. But is it just China, or is it also coming out of freaking Europe? Because opium wars are a British thing. The Chinese have a real long history on this, a real long memory on this. So you pick your poison as to who was actually doing this stuff. I don't care. I just know that these people dumped a whole lot of treasuries on the market and will not get the actual smoking gun until June, when the April TIC report comes out, because it comes out 60 days in arrears. So they've got 60 days to paper everything over. And oh, by the way, I check the TIC report every month, and I can tell you that no one's data gets restated more often than Europe's. Everybody else can seem to give us a number that's durable, that month to month is the same. But I go back and I look at the report, and every time I go through it, I'm like Jesus Christ. So Bermuda has to like restate their holdings like for the last 9 months, or Germany, or the Bank of England. Like, really? Huh. So they're even lying to the US when they tell us what their holdings are, until there's an actual proper audit done. The data in there, as a data guy, as a former chemist, as a data guy, it drives me nuts, because I have to be careful every time. I can't just go and grab this month's data and add it into my spreadsheet. I have to go back and check the last year. And of course, it's presented to you in the worst way imaginable, and your eyes cross over as you're looking through these these terrible friggin' web tables that they publish the thing, and they can't just like give us a friggin' spreadsheet. Like they can't give us an Excel file. They do it on purpose. It's just awful. So you have to like sit down and do the work every month for an hour, hour and a half, and actually, rebuild your friggin' data, your database of data. And it's awful. And every time I note something like this, I'm like, oh, look, they're restating their data again because, they didn't want that headline written last month. And like I'm so freaking over it, man. I really am. These people are scum. They lie about everything, and we just need to shut up and stop it. The Chinese just want to save face and get out of this thing. Okay, I mean they really do. They just want to get a save face, get out, be done, and cut a deal. It's Europe that still has pretensions of starting World War III, breaking up Russia, and resubjugating the United States, and they absolutely think they can do this. They're delusional, but they think this. And I was listening to Martin Armstrong yesterday on Alex Jones, and I mean Marty's been saying a version of this for years in his private blogs and some of his interviews and whatnot. But he just flat out told us what the game plan is. They have a 20-year plan for war, and they plan on going to war for the next 20 years. I'm like, no, we need to kill the European Union in the next 3 to ensure that doesn't happen. We need to end France as a concept. And I mean at the governmental level. I don't mean French people. I mean the Republic of France needs to go away. Emmanuel Macron needs to be clapped in irons and thrown in a hole. Same thing with Keir Starmer, same thing with Ursula von der Leyen, same thing with all these people. All those bureaucrats in Brussels need to go away. And this world would change tomorrow for the better. And every day and twice on Sunday, if you're worried, if you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on in the world, just assume it's Europe, and then, people ask me all the time, they're like, "Why are you so accurate?" It's because I always just assume it's those guys, and then I'm right. And the rare time that I'm wrong, I go, "Well, I was wrong." Okay, it was those guys. It was those guys working on behalf of Europe. Like at the end of the day, like who do you think blew up Nord Stream? You think it really was the Americans? No, it was the British and the Poles, along with the Ukrainians. That's who it was. We gave them a little bit of technical assistance because we have traitors within our government. But why else? Who else would want to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline? Not the Americans. Who else would want to destroy relations between Germany and Russia? So the same people who've been trying to destroy the relationship between Germany and Russia for 300 years.
So you think that
nothing's changed?
So that there's a war, a trade war, and it's actually much bigger than that. But it's to simplify it, the United States up against the European banking system, right? The banking elites out of
the old
Europe.
European colonialist banking system.
And so, what do you think? There's a lot of people that say that, okay, Trump's playing 4D or 5D or 10D chess, whatever it is. What do you see? What do you see as the end result of this? Like, what's he trying to do?
What's he trying to? He's trying to accomplish that we get to price our own dollars, irrespective of them. Of what they want. They have to. It's our dollars, your problem. We want that to exist for those who are still desperate, who are still terminally short dollars. Now, Zoltan Pozsar reminds us that it's now our commodities your problem, but guess who's a major commodity producer? Not just Russia, the United States, Canada. Okay, so part of what's going on here is Europe is desperately trying to hold on to Canada as their last source of collateral, energy and raw material collateral. And Trump is attacking it directly, but but the way they're going about it in Ottawa is the worst way imaginable. It's like they always do, which is these people do not negotiate. They do not know how to negotiate. They know how to create ultimatums, and then they stick to their guns. And then they put their feet in the sand, and then they blame you for saying no to them. Putin, Greece in 2015, the Americans, over and over and over and over and over again. Everything is always, you have no right to say no to us because we are eternal. We are inevitable. We are insouciant, wise, and better than you Europeans. No, you're not. but that's the way they view the rest of the world. They just see the rest of the world as the help. I've been saying this for years. Now, and I don't mean to be flip about it. And I'm not talking to, I'm not talking to some guy who lives in Hamburg who runs a shoe shop, like a shoe repair shop. I'm not talking about that guy. I'm not saying that about German people. I'm saying that about Germany's leadership, and I'm talking about the EU's leadership. And like we have, useful idiots here in the United States who support the globalist agenda within our government, and we have plenty of them. Most of them have blue hair and wear nose rings and have 13 cats. The same thing exists over in Germany. The same thing exists in the UK and in London and Paris and everywhere else. There are plenty of people out there who are fellow travelers. And we should all look in the mirror and go, am I a fellow traveler with these evil pedophilic vampires? We here in America, in majority now, are saying we're not, and we're real sorry that we went along with these people in the past, but we're not doing this anymore. So our goal is to get out from underneath the system. And if you stop bitching about it because you think Trump is going about it badly, or because you just don't like his uncouth New Yorkness, get over yourself. That's the path to liberation from these very same people who are destroying you and are getting ready, or spinning up to steal your wealth, steal your savings, destroy your pensions, steal your savings, default on sovereign debt, and issue you a digital currency that you will never be able to get out from underneath of. So you're about to get impoverished, and you're complaining that Donald Trump puts out mean tweets. Like, I'm sorry, you have a solipsism problem and you need therapy. Sorry. Like, I want to be sympathetic. I want you to be I want to be on the same side as you. I want to fight the same fight and get rid of these people. But if you're not going to, I can't feel bad if you're not willing to. I live 25 miles north to 20 miles north of the city of Gainesville, Florida. It's like shitlib central. Okay. Literally, the city and county commission are all prominent members of the DNC, for Christ's sake. They take their talking points off of Emily's List every Monday morning. Okay? They run the city like it's Seattle, Washington in the worst way imaginable. That's their goal, and that's exactly how they go about it. And it's terrible. And then we have the university, which has been just a hotbed of unbelievably bad policy. And I got news for you. I would like all of those people to be saved, but those people are over there torching their Teslas or turning them in and buying more Subarus. Like, that's what they're doing. Just wait until Elon Musk buys Subaru. I don't know what they're going to do at that point. But they're mad at Toyota at the same time, who's, by the way, a majority owner in Subaru, and they're mad at Toyota because because the new Prius isn't a full electric vehicle. These people are crazy. They don't make any sense, and they don't want to be saved. Okay, well, if you don't want to be saved, that's fine. We're going to go save ourselves, and by proxy, we might save you. And maybe one day you'll thank us, but we're not holding out hope. And it's the same problem around the rest. It's the same problem with the elites with the liberal elite in Canada, in Ottawa, in New York, California, Paris, London. Same place, same problem everywhere else. They don't want to be saved by mouth-breathing Americans that they look down their nose at, who are uncouth and eat hamburgers and carry and strap guns on. Like, they think we're they think we're Neanderthals. That's nice. We may be, but I got news for you. We're right, and that's all that really matters. And we're the ones with the power and the ability to stand up, because we have the institutions to stand up to what's always happened previously in Europe, and say no. And the key to that has been what I've been saying for 4 years. The key to that is a secured overnight financing rate, which prices dollars for the rest of the world based on what's going on in American markets. And during all of this stuff, during everything that was happening, the short end of the U.S. yield curve did not budge. Yes, the SOFR markets were a mess. There was insane levels of volume going through the SOFR 3-month futures market. The market was moving 10, 20, 30 basis points a day. This is a market that if it moves 3 basis points, that's like an earthquake. So I don't know what happened but that's what was going on. So, to give you an idea, we're now another layer on the financial Richter scale. We're another layer higher. But we're 4 days later. And we're back to normal. Because you can't maintain weeks upon weeks upon weeks upon weeks of turmoil unless you're really melting things down. And Trump very smartly just said, oh, I'm sorry, my bad, 90-day hold. Well, okay. Why? Because it was only coming from one very specific corner of the market, and that market could not create could not manufacture reality. The rest of the market came in and went, oh, okay, I'm not worried anymore. And then they got overwhelmed, and then they had to flip and go on. Oops.
So you see a lot of these moves
and that's Trump. A good thing. We find out who these people are, and now we know what we have to do to stop them. Every time they try, one last point, every time they try to do this from here on out, because we have markets that are much more reflective of what's happening in our space, they can't create a crisis somewhere else and then have it travel to our shores and rip through the plumbing of the financial system. Now, we've got plenty of traders on Wall Street. We've got plenty of traders over at BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard and we have plenty of traders. And I can tell you that they can all be taken out. We can, the real power on Wall Street can take out BlackRock.
Really?
Because BlackRock's not that big a company. BlackRock controls a lot of wealth.
Yes.
But it isn't a very big company. BlackRock's a $40 billion company. Shareholder equity, $40 billion. It's not even a large cap. That's all it is, $40 billion worth of shareholder equity. It controls $9 trillion worth of your 401k assets. And it votes your proxy, and it appoints members to the boards of the companies that you now hate. And that's where its real power is. But BlackRock go look at its balance sheet. Go look at an income statement. Go look at their financials. You tell me that JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley couldn't take out BlackRock tomorrow? Why do you think Larry Fink's out there they're screaming about what's going on? Because he knows how vulnerable he is. Because if he pushes the shit too far, Diamond, Solomon, and the rest of them will take his ass out. Because now they got their boy Trump in the White House. Because they're the ones who put Trump in the White House. They're the ones who ensured that Powell was here for a second term. Watch Jamie Dimon. He's smirking the entire way. It's hilarious. And that everybody gets it all wrong. It's hilarious. Every time Dimon speaks, I'm like, I can't help myself. It's funny. But you have to know what you're looking for.
So you think that basically, I know we've discussed this in previous shows, that mm-hmm. Trump and these American bankers, right? The American banking elites, that they are decoupling from the European banking system and working to destroy the European banking system. Because, going back to the creature from Jekyll Island, the central banking system.
You got to go back 300 years.
Going back to the Bank of England, right? Tracing back all the way into these original control mechanisms that have really, through their debt slavery and everything they've done, that they've controlled a lot of the world for a very, very long time. And they've not just controlled it and kept it going. They've taken it and they've led it into a pit that's kind of falling down into hell, right? Like it's been a pretty, whether it's the depopulation, all the things that are happening at that level.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you think that Trump is that there is basically a hidden, except for people that know where to look, but to the public, there's this covert war happening between the American banking system and the European banking system.
Yep.
But it seems like that the American banking system has the upper hand. That the European banking system has way over leveraged with the Ukraine war. They don't have the natural resources that we do. So where do you see that? If we were to win this war, right? If Trump was to truly decouple us from that European banking system, right? What does that look like? How does that change our way of life? Because these things seem...
It changes our way of life because we go back to a system wasn't designed by them. It's not a regulatory state with high taxes, high regulation, this prevention principle running around everywhere and trying to keep us from doing anything. It's a low tax, low regulation world pre-1913 in conception, conception is the wrong word. Just in architecture, right? And it's going to have relatively not high protection tariffs. The federal government is just going to be a lot smaller, and it's going to take less of our money. And we're going to have a domestic digital version of the dollar. And I know that's a bridge too far when you say digital dollar, and everybody freaks out. I got news for you: 90% of dollars today are digital. There aren't dollar bills for every liability. There's not big stacks. There's not pallets of $100 bills over at your local bank, folks. It just isn't. There aren't billions of dollars sitting in a vault somewhere. Those are gone. Those days are over. Most dollars today are digital in the first place. What I mean is a separate domestically circulating currency that is only available to Americans and backed by, either treasury instruments or a sovereign wealth fund or whatever that is owned by Americans, with an external dollar that's probably going to look a whole lot like a stablecoin market. Now, here's the interesting part about a stablecoin market. Like Tether. Let's look at Tether. Now, I've been accused recently from some jackasses on Twitter as to say that I shill for Tether. I do not shill for Tether. I just read the room. I don't care whether Tether is good, bad, or indifferent. As a matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, I think at this point, Tether is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Federal Reserve. That's my personal opinion. Take it for what it's worth. I don't care if you don't like it. You can disagree with me. I may be wrong. It's my opinion. Hey, that's just like your opinion, man. To quote the great Lebowski. But
America is under siege. You've seen the headlines: terror attacks, chaos, and whispers of coordinated threats. Intelligence insiders and whistleblowers are sounding the alarm. For years, the border's been wide open, allowing dangerous groups of terrorists, cartels, even foreign soldiers to infiltrate our nation. The deep state doesn't want you prepared. And even with Trump coming back in charge, smooth sailing certainly is not guaranteed. Experts are warning us disruptions are coming. Chaos is just around the corner. Think about it. What would you do if another pandemic hits? Or if our grid goes dark? Or if coordinated attacks erupt across our country overnight? Right now is the time to act while you still can. Your family's survival depends on having a secure food supply. That is why Heaven's Harvest exists. Heaven's Harvest offers the highest quality, long-term, storable food, delicious, nutritious, and designed to last up to 25 years. Imagine the peace of mind knowing that you have 3, 6, or even 12 months of food ready for any emergency. Don't wait for the shelves to go empty or for the next attack to catch you off guard. Take control now. Go to heavensharvest.com and secure your supply. Use promo code SETH, that's SETH, for an exclusive 15% discount on your entire order. Picture this: your family is safe, secure, and well-fed while chaos unfolds outside. That security starts today. Heaven's Harvest, because tomorrow isn't promised. Protect your family by preparing today. Visit heavensharvest.com right now and use promo code SETH to save 15% off. Don't wait until it's too late. Your family is depending on you.
How does Tether operate? Tether operates as a heat sink for marginal treasury demand, because Tether's market cap Tether is overcapitalized. They put out their quarterly statements and it's mostly short, what you would expect. Short-term treasuries, so a little bit of long-term treasuries, a little bit of gold, a little bit of Bitcoin, some other stuff, but for the most part, and, if they've got $115 or $120 billion market cap at that point, they probably have $140 billion worth of assets, simply because some of the assets in their portfolio have risen in value because they don't turn their entire portfolio over every day. Right, because that happens. So you take a snapshot of Tether's balance sheet every 3 months, and every 3 months the thing looks relatively overcapitalized. Cool. Well, I got news for you. they actually have those treasuries. They don't have interest rate derivative swaps that they're pulling out with the Bank of England, which have been, claimed 14 times by 14 other people, and no collateral was posted to post that same write that same contract to 14 different people with no collateral posted, which is what you can do in City of London, because you can rehypothecate any friggin' debt instrument infinitely, but posting zero collateral. Very important. Can't do that in the United States. So the stablecoin market, because of if the Fed start to move towards the Federal Reserve starts to, well, just in general, if the Treasury starts to move towards a stablecoin market for offshore dollars, meaning the Eurodollar system gets removed from the European banking system and moved onto the blockchain controlled by American companies like Tether, like Ripple, and others, then they'll have to post one-to-one collateral to get access to those Eurodollars. And if they don't have to post it, Ripple will have to go get it in the marketplace, and there will be backing there. But there's not going to be any way to, they're going to have to figure out how to get the dollars to buy what they need. They're going to have to get they have to pledge the asset, a real asset, to get the stable coin. They're not going to be able to fake it to make it. So that becomes a very interesting thing. That's like the end of the whole SOFR versus LIBOR thing. We went from a completely fake system of infinite debt rehypothecation, especially when we were at the zero bound on interest rates, where money's free, so you can just go get infinite amounts of liquidity. Now it's going to cost you 4.5%. Maybe in the future it'll cost you 3.5% by the end of the year. Fed's going to cut rates a couple times this year, and that puts a limit on your leverage, and that's what the world looks like. Okay, now are they all now? Do I believe that all of the old European banking plans are going to be destroyed in this? No. Are they going to be lessened in power? Yes. Are they going to be forced to submit to their masters on Wall Street? In my opinion, yes. But that will also mean Israel submitting to the United States on foreign policy. It means the Iranians submitting to the Russians on foreign policy. It means Ukraine being over the Nazi regime in Ukraine being overthrown. I am very comfortable with using Putin's terminology as far as Zelensky and what's going on with those Azov motherfuckers over in Ukraine. I'm over it. I'm so over it. I was over it when years before the war even started. I've had to at least give lip service to, well, maybe they have a point because the Russians did actually invade. So, but now that we're 3 years into this and they've had multiple chances to get up to get off the war train, and they've chosen death every time. Well, sorry, I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. You made your bed with Boris Johnson and Emmanuel Macron. You deserve everything you get.
And so how do you see things panning out? Looking at the massive debt bubble, global, right? Looking at the stock market, here in America, like how does this play out here? How does it affect the economy in Europe, right? I mean, do you see this continuing and having some sort of massive economic crisis in Europe? Will that spill over into America?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're talking about the end of the European Union. We're talking about them, but we're trying to force it on our time schedule, not theirs. Right. We're like they were trying to force liquidation on us, and the liquidation of the United States on their timeline, not ours. We've turned the tables on them, and now we're trying to. And Trump has really accelerated putting the screws to them. Okay, and he's done that with the tariffs. He's done that with NATO spending. He's done that with all of these things. It's like, oh, really? You want to rearm? Great, go ahead and do so. I know you guys didn't want to do that and start doing that until 2030. Well, now you're going to do it in 2025. And Putin, by the way, is going to, is setting up for a massive campaign this summer in Ukraine. I mean, all the signs are there. I was reading some stuff this morning. I couldn't argue with it. Like they've done their shaping maneuvers all across the Ukrainian front line, and Vlad's just waiting. Oh, we're not going to get anywhere in negotiations with the Americans on this. Okay. and they're going to go through what's left of Ukraine very, very quickly when they decide to do so. I think they have not. I think they've been holding back. I do not think Russia's been fighting in any way close to their capability. And now they have a close to 1 million or 1.5 million man army that is both trained, battle hardened, organized. They have remade some of their and modernized some of their material, their military logistics. They've rebuilt a lot of their logistical hubs in the Donbass. They're now getting ready for a big push into towards the Dnieper River, and they just basically said, hey, look, if you guys don't come to the table, we're going to take Zaporizhia, and we're going to move into Dnipropetrovsk, and there ain't not fucking thing you can do about it. And we're now into that's nice. Make me. We're into make me politics. I want you to stop. Make me. But you have to do this because we said no, make me. And the Europeans have no ability to make anybody do anything other than attack in the financial markets. It's the only power they have left. Now, if this drags on for 10 years, they will have power. They will have rearmed, yada, yada, yada. So this has to be cut off now. And what I see is a world with rump Europe and rump Ukraine. And for our stock markets, in the short term, it's just going to be choppy. We're getting really close to sell in May and come back after Labor Day. It's where we're coming to. And I think it would be good for the equity markets to just tread water for 6 months. I think they need to. I think we need to have a nice, slow, grinding reorganization of where capital needs to be. I think we need to pull out all of this fluff in the Mag 7. Not Apple per se, because I think Apple is actually actually Apple is worth its price point. But the other ones are like Nvidia and I just think they're fluff, right? So they become easy targets. So you can boost them up with leverage, and then you can create panics when you start selling them. Like they're time bombs waiting to go off. When you have stocks like that trading at 200-300 times earnings, like, dude, they're just time bombs waiting to go off, right? So,
so you think the market is headed towards a pretty massive correction? Just from
no, I think we already had a massive correction. I think just a trending sideways for 6 months and choppiness between 40 and 45 grand for 6 months would be on the Dow would be great. I think it would be very good for everybody's expectations. Maybe we'll see it dip into the mid 30s, but I'm sorry, the Dow is down 5% for the year. It's down 11% off of its high. When did we all become such unrepentant pussies that we can't handle a 10% correction in the stock market? Really? Oh, right, because boomers. Never mind. Sorry, that was probably rude, but mostly true. So I'm serious. Like it boggles the mind. Like we had an equity bear market in this country from 1966 to 1982. Like the Dow didn't get above 670 for 16 years. And it didn't dominate headlines every day. Oh my God, the world is ending because the Dow's not rising. Like, are you kidding me? Like, most people don't even have stocks in the first place. The only people who are complaining about this are the ones that are all levered. And the only way they can make money is by goosing markets with cheap monetary heroin to higher levels. And that's how they make their returns. The 2 and 20 carried interest guys have got to they have to go out and get real jobs. I got news for you. We have a lot of ditches to be dug. So, and you guys all hang out at the gym when you're done trading. So you guys should all be in great shape to go dig some ditches and build some fucking roads. I got potholes in my county road. I need them fixed. Why don't you go do that and stop scamming everybody for picking up nickels in front of a goddamn freight train and then demanding a bailout? Like, how about you go ready? How about you go fuck yourself and we call it even? Like, I'm over it. Seriously, everybody just needs to stop. Like, it's really dumb. I know I try not to be like overly salty sometimes, depending on the show that I'm on, but this is just so obnoxious. Like, My friend Dave Collum is like, dude, we should have a 90% correction in the stock market. The Shiller P/E has corrected from a high of 37 back to 33, and we're supposed to like think that the sky is falling. Well, yeah, if you're in City of London, but fuck those guys. Like, I don't care. I'm done with them like thinking they're entitled to rule the world. Like, I'm just over it. So Larry Fink can go scratch, and Vanguard and State Street can go scratch, and and Frederick Merz over in Germany can go rearm all he wants, and so that Putin can blow them all up, because that's what's gonna happen. Period. Because look, if you want the Ukraine war to end tomorrow, this is really simple. All Trump has to do is cut off satellite access. That's all he's got to do. So, but if I'm negotiating with Putin right now, I hate to say this, but I'm going to be rude. If I was Putin right now, and I would be saying to Trump, don't shut off the satellite. Don't shut off the satellites. Let the Brits and the French dump their guys in there so I can kill them all. So we can end this. Then shut the satellite service off.
So you think that Trump and Putin have a...
Oh, by the way, I think they did that the other day, by the way.
Oh, okay. So you think that they have, not to say that they're allies, but they have a mutual enemy of the European banking system, and that they understand that enemy has to be taken out. And so Putin, getting them to continue to kind of pour resources and money and troops into Ukraine is a great way to bleed NATO dry, right? And to bleed their banking system dry.
It's been my thesis about how Putin's fighting this war for 3 years now. Literally for 3 years. I've done this in many a podcast, and I'll do it one more time in case you haven't gotten it. There is that great scene in that otherwise marginal movie, Return of the Living Dead, where the zombies kill all the kids that are having sex in the graveyard, and then the cops show up because there's a disturbance. The zombies kill all the cops. And then the zombie gets into the car, gets on the radio and goes, send more cops. That's how Putin has been fighting the war in Ukraine. Send more troops, send more weapons, spend more money, spend more blood and treasure. Please do so. We've got 155 millimeter dumb artillery shells, and we make more of them than you do. We have better drones. We have better satellite coverage. We have better this. We have better targeting systems. Every time the HIMARS would shoot, and you'd see the neocons at the Atlantic like crow because the HIMARS system took out some medium value target beyond Russian enemy lines. What they neglected to tell you is that 35 seconds after that HIMARS fired, it was killed. Because once it lights itself up, so. But I've played so many games against guys, and I'm like, why did you do that? That was dumb. You shot your wad, and now I killed everything. And they're like, but I got a good shot off. I'm like, but I won. But I got a good shot off. Okay. I won. Let's play again. I don't know. And I'm watching them do this, and I'm like, they really do think in Brussels that, and at Davos, that they can outlast Putin, rearm, and they think they can win this war against Putin and Trump and you can see what they're doing. So, okay, to tie all this together is what I just said. Why did they attack the markets the way they did over the tariffs? It wasn't the tariffs. They weren't trying to get Trump to stop putting the tariffs on. That was Trump's counter move. What they were trying to do was push the long end of our yield curve up high so that we couldn't refinance that mountain of debt that Yellen issued during the Biden junta that has to be rolled over this summer at low rates. So they used that as the excuse. And then they tried to blame the Chinese for it. Then they tried to blame the Japanese for it. But they did it. They dumped the long end of the yield curve in order to keep the 30-year at 4.8% and keep the 10-year at 4.5% because they didn't want us trying to refinance at 3.9 or 3.75%. And what does that do? that says, okay, but they also at the same time, they sold 10s and 30s and they move some into the 1s and 2s, creating a nice inversion in the belly of our yield curve. So now it's enticing to want to roll out that debt that Yellen issued at 1s and 2s with, to do it again, roll it out and not go out in duration and fix the fiscal problem for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, so that we can get lower refinancing rates, lower interest rate payment, lower interest rate costs, so then we can start fixing the budget. Because that's so that's 75 basis points. That's a lot of money. That's 75 or $100 billion a year. That, so what are they doing? So by doing that and by making it enticing to, okay, well, fine, we'll just roll them over for a year or 2 years, and then but then where are we then? The refinancing wall starts showing up for the 2026 election cycle, for the 2028 election cycle. They think they can outlast Trump, get rid of him, and then use fiscal mismanagement as a way to hang him on his own petard, to then ensure that J.D. Vance doesn't take over in 2028 running with Tulsi Gabbard or something like that. Because you can imagine that ticket at this point in time. You think that's beatable by Gavin Newsom or by AOC and Bernie Sanders? Are you kidding me?
There's always Michelle Obama. She's got a podcast now too. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Big Mike. Yeah, Big Mike's not. Big Mike has no interest in running the country other than running it into the ground, and Big Mike can. No, sorry. So I don't even want to I don't even want to entertain the idea of Michelle Obama as president. It's just so dumb. She doesn't even want the job. But that's the current situation. Gavin Newsom over in California still thinks he has a shot. There's no way. Like Vance and Gabbard is an unbeatable ticket in 2028. Unbeatable ticket in 2028. Period. It's unbeatable. And so you can see the way, once you understand the way these people think, right, you can begin to realize what their strategy is. So it's always extend and pretend. It's always, if they can't win, extend and outlast, and we'll get to it. We'll get to it later. And then what they'll do in the meantime is then they'll accelerate their plans to go for political and fiscal integration of Europe and tighten the screws on their own people so that they can present a united front to global capital and say, look, see, we're stable, we're Europe, we're great, we're wonderful, we're doing all these things, and they're a mess over in America. That's been the narrative for the last 4 years. They're just trying to continue the process. So there's going to be a summer of violence. There's going to be some new version of BLM riots. They've already trial ballooned that shit with the hands off rallies last couple weeks ago, and the elbows up rally with the boomers up in Canada, which were just hilarious, by the way. So pathetic. We're going to wind up taking half of Canada in all of this as well. The western half of Canada is going to probably break off. I don't know how. I don't know. I just know that it's going to happen.
So you think in this? I mean, there's a real possibility over the next couple of years potentially that the large aspects of this European banking system won't exist anymore. Like they can't.
Well, no, or it'll be subordinate to the Americans, and I think the key is going to be Italy. I think the key is Italy.
Why so?
Well, because Georgia Maloney is coming to Washington tomorrow. We're doing this on the 16th tomorrow. She'll be in Washington, D.C. to negotiate a bilateral trade agreement. If she survives the Italian deep state, and by the way, Sergio Mattarella, the president of Italy, he's got heart trouble, and he's only like 82 years old, for Christ's sake. He needs to shuffle off this mortal coil as well. Like the rest of these guys, they're all undead. There's not enough adrenochrome in the world to keep these people alive. I kid. I don't really believe in the whole adrenochrome thing. I like to throw it out there just to, again, they're vampires. But Mattarella has been the fulcrum on which Italian politics has turned, and he's way overstepped his bounds as president multiple times over the past 10 years in order to enforce Davos's will on Italy. And once he's gone, and now Berlusconi's gone, and a lot of the old enforcers of the old order are beginning to die off in Italy, and Meloni has the opportunity here to fully side with the United States and then break with Europe on tax and trade policy completely. And if she does that and she survives it, and there's no amount of sanctions that the EU can put on Italy in return, it'll break the European Union. Italy is and I'm not even just talking about Italy. I'm just talking about what happens if Meloni winds up effectively usurping the power of the European Commission and forcing them into a subordinate role because that's not even a subordinate role, just that like she pricks the armor of their invulnerability, right? Of their maniacal hold on power, right? If Italy is able to go its own way on a trade deal with the United States, it calls into question the entire concept on which the entire European Union is predicated, and it's one of the three most important countries in the EU: Germany, France, and Italy. Without all three of them on the same page, there is no European Union. The rest of this doesn't matter. So watch carefully how Meloni continues to navigate things with Trump. I'd start to watch Spain, certainly watch Greece, and then also watch the way the Balkans are shaping up. And we watch that whole southern underbelly of the European Union. And you'll realize that the Germans don't have a leg to stand on in terms of how to control them. Because if America says, no, you guys work for us, and they all go, absolutely, we like working for you guys, you don't suck. What happens then? What do the Germans do? They can complain all they want, but there's nothing they can really do about it. And to be honest with you, there's enough internal division within German politics, not just with the rise of AfD. I'm talking about within the Social Democrats and the Christian Democrats, like the CDU and the SPD. Like those parties are not monoliths anymore either. They're being torn apart at the seams by all these Davosian machinations to try and extend and pretend and everything else. So if you thought Olaf Scholz was unpopular in Germany as chancellor, just wait till people get a load of Friedrich Merz and he tries to take them to war with Ukraine. Alice Weidel will be chancellor in Germany faster than anybody can say, Schadenfreude. And that's exactly what we'll all have at that point, because it'll be hilarious. But
and what is the translation of that word?
No, Schadenfreude. That's where you're that's where you're embarrassing. It's embarrassing irony. Like the irony of it is that I think that's the best way to put it. It's the outcome that God, there's a way of Schadenfreude is just the best word for it, but it's like, oh, I get to gloat over you're incompetent. I get to gloat over this outcome because I told you this was going to happen. It's like a mixture of irony and I told you so, I guess, and the best way of putting it. I understand. I know what the word means, but I can't for some reason now I can't describe it. It's really weird. But yeah, just look it up. It's like Schadenfreude's perfect for this. So
there's some crazy stuff going on now. I guess has been for a while.
Absolutely.
As we're rounding out, I want to make sure I pull up your blog. Gold, Goats, and Guns. The tomluongo.me. Is that the main URL that we should be using? Is tomluongo.me?
Yeah, that's that. I don't write very much. Actually, I haven't written a public article in months now. I mostly just publish I just cross post the podcasts and the monthly newsletter announcements over there. But really you can follow on Patreon /Gold, Goats, and Guns. You can sign up and you can sign up for the $4 or $12 a month service, but as well, you can just sign up for free and just follow me over there because I post a lot of my media appearances there as well, free to as a way to make sure that there's a one-stop shop for all of those things. I don't put them on the blog. I don't have a Substack. I refuse. So, but anybody who thinks that we have a Substack, we do not. But yeah, we handle everything mostly through Patreon and through Twitter at TFL1728.
Well, you'll be happy that I've got gold, I've got guns, and we're getting goats in like 2 days. So I'll be officially in the,
Really?
the
What kind of goat?
ownership. Some Nigerian dwarfs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not planning on milking them, are you?
Not really. No, they're more for
Okay.
like
Because
kids
Nigerian
petting
dwarfs,
zoo.
yeah. Yeah, no, they are Nigerian dwarfs aren't dairy goats, by the way. I don't know if you know that. I know way too much about goats, so it's like we can have another 45-minute conversation about goats. But Nigerian dwarfs are really personable, and they're adorable little things. They're not as personable as pygmies. There is a breed called pygmy goat, which are slightly smaller and fatter than even Nigerian dwarfs, but they're very gregarious. They really do make the best pets. They're like little dogs with horns.
The pygmy ones.
And they're very gregarious, and there ain't nothing cuter than either Nigerian dwarf or pygmy babies. Like those kids are just the cutest things in the world. And but I mean, goats in general, if you work with them, they have all the personality. They have just tremendous personality. But Nigerian dwarfs are nice goats. They really are. So good luck with that.
Thank you.
It'll be fun.
It'll be good for a lot of it, just for the kids. So because our neighbor, he raises goats.
How many are you going to get?
We're getting a mother and 2
many?
babies.
Okay, that's good. That's good. You need to have at least three or four. I mean, they are herd animals, so if you're not planning on like having them in your with diapers on in the house, because they have no aversion to their own poop and pee. There ain't no connection between the brain and the other end of a goat. Yeah. Just so you know, they can be chewing and talking to you and pooping at the other end. There's no vagus nerve. You know what I mean? Or not much of a vagus nerve system in them. But they need to have a group to be with, because they get really lonely very, very quickly. They are herd animals. So, I heartily recommend getting a guardian dog to go with them, so that you don't have any predation problems. That'd be a Great Pyrenees or a Maremma or something along those lines. So my personal choice here in Florida is Maremmas. They're a little smaller. They handle the heat better. They're slightly more aggressive than Great Pyrenees, but they're all really great family dogs. And they'll take care of the goats. You won't have any raccoon problems. Like, you won't have any problems whatsoever with anything, because the guardian dogs will keep everything clean and everything safe. Because that's what they do. They're not herd dogs. So they're the exact opposite. They bond with their goats, they bond with their humans, and then they go out and they work, and they keep everything out of your life. And having lived rural now for over 20 years, and even when we plan to move to Tennessee, we will bring our guardian dogs with us. I don't plan on having any other friggin' dogs for the rest of my life, because I don't need a high prey drive dog. I don't need terriers. I don't need shepherds. I need a guardian dog. I'm going to be old, and I'm going to be fat, and I'm going to want somebody to stand out there and be 90 pounds and go, "You're not coming in the yard." I don't care if you're the neighbor's cat. I don't care if you're Antifa. You're not coming in my yard. And those dogs will lay down their life for you.
No, they're great dogs. We've got 2 labs, which they're 8 months old.
Labs are fine, but the thing is, labs are great family dogs.
That's what it is. Because the goats and the chickens they're fenced off, because I know that labs are more prey driven. But
right,
so the labs are there.
Absolutely. So the labs are great yard dogs,
exactly,
and just keep them keep them away from the goats. But if the goats are in their own pasture and there's no dog to help them, to protect them, you're going to have I don't know where you are, but I know where I am. Like, the coyotes are everywhere. We've got 6-foot fence around all the goat enclosure. So hopefully that might be good enough.
Yeah.
That might be. It'll be good enough to keep the goats in. It'll also be enough to keep the Maremmas in if you decide you want to keep it. But 6-foot fencing is good. But just in general, if you start to hear coyotes howling in the distance, get yourself a guardian dog.
Good point.
Best money you ever spend. Just put them out there just put them out there. You don't have to train them. All you have to do is put them out there with the goats, let them chain them, tie them up for a couple of weeks until they fall in love with the goats. And then that'll be that. And they'll just I watch my goats run the dogs off of their food. That's how submissive the dogs are to the goats. So So, I mean, I ran goats for 12 years and always had guardian dogs. And I can tell you that I never lost a chicken to predation. Hell, I didn't lose any garbage to predation because I leave my garbage on the other side of the fence, and even the raccoons won't even come within 10 yards of the fence. And in the last 18 months or so, my older male guardian dog, Goober, has gotten himself 4 raccoons that made the mistake of thinking they were going to expand their territory across my property. And they got halfway across the property, and then they were held, and then they were turned into flat raccoon, and literally Goober wore them as on his head for like 3 days. It was disgusting. I'm like, no, buddy, you're not getting petted. Good dog, not getting petted. Yeah. So I think, yeah, and his name's Goober. Don't fuck with Goober. Goober's 90 pounds worth of kill everything that moves. Now the funny part is, since I got rid of my goats, right, and my pasture is open, like the deer hang out that are local in the area. The deer hang out in the field, and the dogs are like, yeah, whatever. They're just deer. Like they used to run the deer off when there were goats there. Now they don't even run them off. They're like, oh, look, they're a deer. Cool. I have something else to guard too. Like they just don't care. Like everything's part of their neighborhood, and they respect boundaries. So they'll stay in they will stay in the yard if you tell them to and teach them to, but they have their own mind, and they're just tremendous dogs. I gave 2 of them to my nephew up in South Carolina. He's got a big blueberry farm out there. And those guys, he's like, Tom, they know exactly what's going on everywhere on the property. Like they have the whole 180 acres like freaking mapped. I'm like, and they were like 8 months old. I mean, now they're a year and a half. Now they're going to be 2 years old. I think this week they'll be 2 years old. I'm sure that there's nothing that they don't know about what's going on the entire property, and they can hear everything. And they work all day long. They work all night, and they sleep during the day, and then they work all night long. And they're just great dogs. I can't say enough about them.
Now,
anybody who's really thinking about doing any kind of homesteading, you really have to like budget for the dog.
Which
at
breed?
Least one.
I know Great Pyrenees, but
either Great Pyrenees or Maremmas. Maremmas are the Italian breed. They look like white golden retrievers. You've seen Great Pyrenees; they're the much bigger ones.
Huge. Yeah.
Maremmas run between 75 and 100 pounds. Great Pyrenees run between $1.25 and $1.50, or $1.10, $1.25. And then there are other breeds, Couvazes. Everybody has a guardian dog. Right. Every major cult, they have a guardian dog. Anatolian Shepherds are guardian dogs. There's 4 or 5 of them out there. But and they all vary in personality or in terms of breeding of what their aggression level relative to threats. And the Great Pyrenees are the least aggressive to threats. They're the biggest, and they're not particularly aggressive, but 2 of them can drive off a grizzly bear. So, but they're going to give you plenty of warning before they come. So generally the rule is like Great Pyrenees will bark a lot. They'll like bark, 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 and then they'll run. And then they'll come after you. The Maremmas are usually bark, 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 and then they'll come after you. The Anatolian Shepherds are barking to let you know that they're on their way. Is kind of the hierarchy on that. So just to give you an idea. And then there are other, I don't know Couvazes very well, and I don't know the other ones very well, but those are the ones that I know. I've had Maremmas for 15 years now. I won't have anything else. They don't have to be papered. There are no papers for them. They're like border collies. Do they herd? They're a border collie. That's the Scotsman. Does it herd? It's a border collie. Does it guard? It's a Maremma. You know what I mean? It's a guardian dog. And, you can get great dogs for, a few $100, and they'll give you 10 years worth of great service. And they're also good therapy dogs, because they'll just stand there and let you love on them until they hear something off in the woods, and then they're gone. And they do their thing, and you don't have to train them. They're not needy. You don't have to exercise them. It's like they're perfect for people who are busy. Like they're the perfect rural dog, but you can't have them in town because they bark all the time. You can't, they're big dogs. So these are like the perfect rural family dog. In that they'll guard, but they won't get themselves into trouble. And if you keep them behind a fence, then, they'll make sure that you're safe from the UPS guy.
Important. Well, Tom,
it's very important. At least to them it is.
It's been great talking to you. Great to finish off on a lighter note.
Take care.
So we'll be in touch.
I'm glad to hear that people are going to try. I wish you well with goats. It's a very, very difficult. It's a very difficult thing. Just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. And if you need to add to your herd, I would not add a buck, because now you're a rancher, and soon you'll go from 3 or 4 goats to 30. And then you better have the property for it, and you better have the time, and you better have the inclination and the energy. If that's what you want, well, that's great. If that's not what you want, then, mother, 2 babies, make sure that the boy gets neutered, and, so that no accidents happen, that we don't wind up with anyone, a little one-eyed or one-horned goats. And then, and if you need, and if that doesn't feel like enough, then you get yourself like a wether, and get yourself an older wether to go along with them. You got enough land for 4, and that would be, that's generally good. But, they form very strong family units, unbelievably strong family units. So you'll be interested it's interesting to watch it happen. So, okay.
Well, I'll keep you updated on the goats.
Absolutely. Thank you. That'd be great.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tom. It's always fun speaking with you.
Absolutely. Take care now.
Numbers don't lie. The impact that Balance of Nature makes every single day is astounding. You can see the numbers for yourself at their website, balanceofnature.com. So listen to these stats concerning Balance of Nature's worldwide success. More than 1,000 success stories are reported each month. Hundreds of thousands of customers worldwide. Millions of orders delivered each year. And billions, yes, billions of fruits and veggie supplements consumed by people who've decided to start living better. There's only one number missing. That's you. Do what I did and add yourself to these numbers. Start taking Balance of Nature's whole food supplements, like so many others around the world. Here's another number that should get your attention, 35%. Use my discount code Seth to get 35% off plus free shipping and their money back guarantee. You must use my discount code Seth. So call them at 800-2468-751 and use the discount code Seth, or order online at balanceofnature.com. Use discount code Seth to get 35% off plus free shipping.